Welcome back. Are you ready to add in mouse events? And this is going to make our application a little bit more exciting and, of course, interactive, adding in these mouse events. So the objective of this lesson is to add a mouse event whenever we hover over that output area, whenever our mouse enters or mouse leaves this, we want to update the background color of output. So adding in a mouse event on that. So we can add an event listener. And the mouse event listener that we're listening for is mouse enter. And we'll just do an anonymous function directly within the event listener. So whenever we mouse enter, we're going to update the output, selecting the style value, so style attribute of that element, and updating the background color object value. Let's set that to blue. So whenever the mouse enters, it should update that value to blue. And you can see that as well when you do inspect, when you do the code inspector within the browser. You see that now we've added in this color of blue. So right now, take a look at, I entered it in by mistake. So there's our output element. So no attributes yet, no styling attributes yet. But when I hover over, we add the style background color blue. So that's the effect that we want. And we also want to reset it back to white whenever we have mouse leave. So whenever the mouse leaves that element, we're going to update that background color and we're going to reset it back to white. So refresh and try that out. So now whenever we're on top, we've got a blue background, and that means that we're in the active area, and we also want to track that mouse content. Adding in one more event listener, and this one is going to be for add event listener mouse move. Whenever the mouse is moving, then we want to track its position, so its horizontal and as well as its vertical position, so its X and Y position. And we can get that information from the event object, outputting it into the console for now. So whenever the mouse is moving, you see that we get all of this information. This is coming in from that from that event object. And there's a couple variables that we want to pull out, and those are the page X and the page Y. So you see that this is corresponding with our position of where our mouse is located. So there's page X, page Y. There's also an X and Y as well. So there's a number of options to get the same values, and you can see that X and Y are the same as page X and page Y. And this is in relation to the page. There's also in relation to the element. So our pixel values of X and Y in relation to the element. So those are available to us as well. And there's also client X and client Y. And you see those are the same as page X, page Y, and X and Y. So we've got a big choice. We can select any one that we want and use those as X and Y. So we can do something like EX and EY. So console EY. And that will give us the X and Y coordinates of where the mouse is located in real time, of course. And that is going to be invoked anytime that we're over that active element. And you see the other event listeners are still firing off. So we're still seeing that we're updating those values. So the next thing, speaking of updating and outputting, is that we need to update those values of the inner HTML of the elements. And we saw that earlier that we selected them as mouse out. And that was a node list. So we've got two nodes. And the first one is going to be the X. The second one is the Y. And because we only have the two, it's really easy to figure out which one's which. So update the value of this one to be EX. And the second one is going to be the value that's contained within EY. So we can visibly see where the coordinates are. So now, whenever we're hovering over, we see we've got those X and Y coordinates being output. And I'm actually going to move this one to the top. So it's a little bit easier to see where our coordinates are at. So we start out with X 12, Y 29, and then we can move it along and we can move all the way to the end of the page. And as mentioned, this is the page X and Y coordinates. So it's not the relation to where the element is, where the mouse is on the element. And you can track those as well. But for now, we're going to keep it as the page coordinates. So go ahead and add the mouse events into your project. So whenever you mouse enter, have it do something with the active area, and whenever it leaves, reset it back to what it originally was, and also add in that mouse move so we can track the X and Y coordinates of where the mouse is while it's moving over our active element. and you're going to be ready to move on to the next section, next lesson, where we're going to have some more interaction and some more fun stuff with JavaScript. So that's coming up.